growing up in Denver, I first started playing lacrosse because my cousin played. He went to Kent Denver High School, which is a very well-known private school in Denver. He was playing, and I went out and saw one of his games, and I was hooked right then and there. In 2000, we actually had the Colorado Mammoth come to Denver, and that was huge for us lacrosse players. We loved watching the indoor game, and that's really kind of what created the spark in me to continue to play. And I lived only 15 minutes away from Denver University, so either I was going to a Colorado Mammoth game, or I was going to Denver Pioneers games, or I was going to my cousin's Kent Denver games. So that's really what gave me my start in lacrosse. And I felt like I didn't really know at the time that Colorado was a hotbed, but now looking back at it, I can see that Colorado was a hotbed, and it has huge opportunities for youth lacrosse players.
I've definitely seen the game grow. Places like out here in Utah, you see guys starting way early, and I think that's great for the game. And in Florida, I think it's great because the weather, places like California, Florida, you can play year-round. So I think that's awesome. You see the character of the players are a little different from different states. I think that makes it unique and everything. And I would say the biggest thing about being from New York, and which is kind of a hotbed, I guess, and going down to Virginia, which is a story program, is guys in Florida and Utah and like Arizona area, they're so much more excited about the sport because they don't get to see it every day. In Long Island, you grew up, you see it. You drive into the deli, you see guys playing lacrosse everywhere. You know what I mean? So you're kind of accustomed to it. But out here, they kind of covet the sport a little bit more, but just because it's so much newer to them. And I think that's amazing because they enjoy it so much, and there's so much excitement around the sport. And I think that's just gonna do great things for the sport.
I started lacrosse in Madison, Connecticut, where my parents ran the youth program. And then I went to Fairfield Prep, which is in Fairfield, Connecticut. It's an all-boys Jesuit high school. And then I transitioned to the Naval Academy in Maryland. And after graduating from the Naval Academy, when I was deployed out on the West Coast, I started to get involved in San Diego lacrosse. Started to see how amazing the athletes were, but the lacrosse curriculum was not quite there, nor was the coaching staff. So what we've seen a lot is the players develop into unbelievable lacrosse players that are savvy when they get to these Division I programs, versus if you took 5-6 years ago, a San Diego or San Francisco kid might have the physical ability to play in the game, but he hasn't had kind of the teaching or the players around him to kind of perform at that high level of lacrosse.
So I moved to Manhattan Beach, California after my freshman year of high school in Denver. And it was tough because there wasn't too many recruiting opportunities. The first person I met when I moved to California was Scott Hoxton. He got me a part of the West Coast Stars program, and I was actually I was on the first West Coast Stars team, and there we went back to UMass, we went back to Top 205, we went to the Gate Cup at Gettysburg, and that was really my first look at East Coast lacrosse. And then after my senior year, I decided I'm going to go to Salisbury University and play, and it was a culture shock. It was I knew I was kind of going in, I knew I was going into like the mainland of lacrosse, being either Maryland or New York, whatever you want to call the mainland being, but it definitely was it wasn't a culture shock, but I knew that I really had to kick it into gear once I started playing there.
When I got back east, I was a pretty polished player just by virtue of the fact that I didn't play any other varsity sports in college. That debate kind of rages on. Some people tell you to play multiple sports. Some say it's not necessary. I don't think it's necessary. I played sports, all kinds of sports growing up, and then I focused on lacrosse in high school. So by the time I got there, I'd played back east a couple times. The kids back east just have real polished stick skills, and they've been playing longer, so they have a little more polish to their game, a little more cerebral. But I think out west we have a lot of good athletes and kids. We have a lot of great kids coming out of the west now. So no matter what state you're from, you can make a big impact.
I never would have thought that Utah has such a big lacrosse love that they do, and really going to these cities has shown me that that there are kids out there that want to get recruited. There are young kids who have the dream, just like I did, to get recruited to a D1 team or go play in college. And when I was growing up, I didn't really even think about D1 or D2 or D3. It didn't really register to me as, you know, which one was the best. I just wanted to be playing college ball. And you know, I see that in these kids. They don't really know what the difference is between D1. Some of them do, but a lot of these kids just want to play in college, and I think that's an awesome thing that the LXM Pro Tour is bringing to these cities.
So all in all, I would say the West Coast is probably 10, 15 years behind the East Coast in terms of getting there, but the gap is closing very quickly.